Death is not the opposite of life. That's where you're wrong. Death is the opposite of birth. Birth and death is the continuum of life.
My breakup was hard because I loved her. It's hard to forgive myself.
Is what I'm doing with my life good enough, meaningful enough?
Who are you? What's the deeper truth?
Let's do it.
I'm so excited.
So thank you for your time and consideration in making this work for your day. I'm amazed at the opportunity I have to share something that I've been passionate about for a couple of years now. I've been in the death and dying field for most of my nursing career, and at the deathbed hundreds of times, and dealing with literally thousands of families that are going through the dying experience. Lots of fear and confusion. What's happening tonight is just creating the space for the participants to share their thoughts about death and dying.
The death and dying dinner was really interesting. People don't talk about death while they're alive. Certainly not with a crew of people that don't look like they're going to be kicking the bucket anytime soon.
People tease me and they say, well, what do you have to be dying or do you have to be diagnosed? Like, how do you qualify to come to a dinner?
I think it should be a must dinner for anybody who's going to die.
Perfect.
For me as a mom, like my biggest fear that sometimes like suffocates me is the thought of my children getting sick. I don't know how you deal with that as a nurse.
The work is so challenging and as rewarding, but still it's making time to dance and to play and to integrate that death is a natural part of our life cycle. It's inevitable, you know, and I think if we want to die well, then we should learn how to live well.
I found a lot of people's experiences really interesting, and I did kind of set the intent, like I just want to learn and hear other people's stories.
I have been privileged to experience death, and so that gives me great comfort. I don't have any fear of death myself because I think I know what it is. I was 14 and we had a car accident and I was ejected and landed on my head. I saw myself leaving my body, so floating above the operating table, and everything was muted. The light was very soft, the sounds were very soft, everything was just very pleasant. And all of a sudden I reintegrated my body, and as soon as I did, it was just extraordinary because the weight of the world, you know, was there. The pain, the light was so bright, the sounds were so loud. And, you know, it was not my time. I had to be here. I had to cook more.
Beautiful food.
Iman was just like, you know, if a time came for anyone to pull the plug, he's like, you don't pull the plug. You tell whoever's in the room. I would tell him, like, I will find a way. I'm not going away. And he's like, I don't want to die. I hate that.
Yeah, those are my words, yeah.
And I just was like...
I do hate death. I love being alive. I'm thankful for the breath that I have. I'm thankful for just being here.
People go to the hospital, they don't want that plug to be pulled. And in all honesty, as a physician, I can tell you that you don't prolong life, you prolong suffering. Yeah. You prolong the suffering of the patient, you prolong the suffering of the relatives. The only people who make out are the ones who sell drugs and medical equipment, and unfortunately, the doctors. So death is not the opposite of life. That's where you're wrong. Death is the opposite of birth. Birth and death is the continuum of life.
Definitely one of the more interesting dinners we've had at our house. You know, I don't know if I'm still comfortable with it. Like I said, not ready to ever think that certain people could die in my life. That's something I couldn't come to terms with right now. But, you know, starting the conversation, it opens your mind to that as well.
This is the number one thing, that the hospice care that you give and the comfort that you bring. There's nothing that compares to good, loving, compassionate care. And when people care with love and compassion, they feel safe, no matter what the situation is. So thank you for doing that. The second is for each of us to take responsibility on how we want to die. It's a choice. Okay, do we want to die in denial and anguish and desperation and suffering? Or do we want to die in dignity? And third, let's educate ourselves. You know, there's a lot of good work going on near death and on the science of the timeless. Thank you.
Beautifully said. So thank you for sharing yourselves tonight. Blessings. We are complete.
Initially, I was just like, okay, this is gonna be really weird. Why does there have to be so much focus on it? Like, I get it, we're all gonna die.
I found the death and dying dinner very light. I don't know, death to me seems like practical and beautiful and wonderful, and so it was great.
My views still remain the same. I'm still gonna ride the wheels of life until they fall off. What I did take away from it and what I did learn is that if you do have a problem with death, if you can learn to accept death as a part of life and really be secure with that, then you can live more, more abundantly.
You're changing in a wonderful direction.
Thank you.